Ladies and gentlemen, now it's too late with Alan Mosley.
Guys, welcome back for another episode of It's Too Late. I am your host, Alan Mosley, joined once again this week by the #1 producer in late night, Sherry Voluntary. Sherry, you were out promoting liberty today, I heard.
I was dealing with the lizard people, yes.
Well, bless your heart.
Thank you. I do it for you. I do it for you people.
I appreciate that. You know what the people should do for you in return?
Money.
Amen, sister. They gotta go to facebook.com/Alan Mosley TV and click on events. You gotta go to our Eventbrite page and you gotta go to the It's Too Late 2021 live show. That's less than 6 weeks away.
Wow. It's come up so fast.
It's unfortunately come to the point where I now have to actually put the show together.
We have to get a show together? What? We're just gonna do this.
Right? So, guys, you got to get your tickets, though, because that's the only way we can actually plan on how many people are going to be there, because this past week, we decided on the various features and amenities. Yeah. People that were there last year got to enjoy a dessert bar. And this year, we're going to have another dessert bar, but a slightly different twist on it. So the only way you can enjoy that is to get your tickets. That's March 20th. It's Too Late 2020 live show. Yeah. I mean, Sherry Voluntary will be there. That should be...
Right. That's enough for anyone to travel cross country.
I like how I swapped the camera time to see you rolling your eyes at your own mention on the program.
I mean, I know what I am.
Speaking of that, so obviously the big cultural event this past week was the Super Bowl. And I really wanted the Chiefs to win because I just hate Tom Brady with every fiber of my being.
Yes, you should. But
the Buccaneers won. I mean, you know, the silver lining there is that our friend Mike of God and Friends, Mike Maharrey, who's a Tampa Bay sports super fan, has been a Tampa Bay sports fan his whole life. So obviously he's very happy. And to be fair, the Bucs have been terrible for most of that franchise's history. So I mean, we can't hold it against them too much. But there's a couple of things I want to cover about that. First of all, unfortunately for all of the viewing public at home, they actually didn't get to see, in my opinion, the biggest play of the game. Did you see it, Sherry?
I down 20, 5:03 to go. Someone has run on the field. Some guy with a bra. And now he's not being chased. He's running down the middle of the 40. Arms in the air in a victory salute. He's pulling down his pants. Put up your pants, my man. Pull up those pants. He's being chased to the 30. He breaks a tackle from a security guard. The 20, down the middle, the 10, the 5. He slides at the 1, and they converge on him at the goal line. Pull up your pants, take off the bra, and be a man.
I love how it takes 12 cops, too, at the end.
Well, I mean, first of all, it was a pretty good run.
Yeah.
I mean, considering the dude was wearing like shorts and flip flops, and he had like on a what's that? What's the thing?
Mankinis.
Yeah. Is that what that's called?
I don't know. That's what I call it.
It's the onesie.
Yeah.
He's wearing a pink neon onesie. But anyway, you know, they black those things out so that people at home don't see that on TV. That's an absolute shame.
That is a shame.
It really is. Like, they got to see whatever qualifies as a halftime show. They actually put that crap on TV, but they didn't let that on TV. But I'll tell you what, there's a reason why I wanted to bring this up today, because we're not really going to be talking about Super Bowl related stuff the rest of the show. But I gotta go on a little bit of a rant.
Uh-oh.
And this one, by the way, this one is for our friend Mike Maharrey. So Mike, this is for you. So you might know that me and Mike have a little side show that we like to do called Sports Ball.
You do?
And it's a sports show. It's not a libertarian show. It's a sports show. It just happens to be hosted by a couple of neckbeards. Yeah. But it's a serious sports show. And the reason why we call it Sports Ball, it's not a secret. It's purposely meant to be a joke towards those people. And you know who these people are. You've got those Facebook friends. I'll give you another example. Back when Game of Thrones was on TV, I would make a post that would say, I think this about this week's Game of Thrones. There's those people that they see that, like, they don't watch Game of Thrones.
Right. They're too good to watch Game of Thrones.
Well, We're not even going to go there. We're not even going to go there. But that they don't involve themselves in the thing that the post is about. Now, a normal person who's not autistic, if I don't know anything about, you know, the movie Frozen, and someone is posting saying, "Oh, I love this movie. Look at Elsa." I don't take it upon myself to say, "Oh, I haven't watched Frozen. I don't like that." I don't. Did you know that Walt Disney hated Jews? Like, I don't. Because that's not really the time or place for that. It's not about you. When you walk into a room where everyone's talking about, water cooler talk is last night's Game of Thrones, and you walk in and say, "Hey, guys, I don't watch Game of Thrones. You are all idiots." How do you think you look to the rest of your coworkers in the office?
Yeah.
Like, I would like to think most people in a real life setting, they would know that's not the best thing to do. But there's something about the internet, isn't there?
Yeah. Yes.
There's something about the internet where they think that that's the appropriate response.
Right.
And so because the Super Bowl was on, and because people who just generally are sports fans were saying, "Hey, you're in the Super Bowl, I'm rooting for the Chiefs," and of course people like Mike who were very excited because their team is in the Super Bowl. You have those people that Mike says, "The Bucks won the Super Bowl. I'm happy." And they say, "Enjoy your bread and circuses, status cuck."
Bread and circuses.
It's so here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Don't do this. If I'm saying something that's personally triggering you, you need to hear this. So write this down. If this is bothering you because you identify with this statement, you don't have to be that person.
What?
You don't have to be this person. When you see something that has no interest for you, that's not about you, that you don't know anything about, you know what the right thing to do is? Just keep scrolling.
Keep on.
Just scroll.
Keep
just
scrolling,
scrolling. Just scroll right on by. You don't need to make a comment. But what's more than that is, and this is particularly for people in our community's a strong word because I don't really want to associate with a lot of, yeah. You know, some people like to use the phrase the liberty community, and I've said that many times myself. But community is a strong word because I got to be honest with you. If this describes you, I don't want to live in the same community as you. I really don't. So not only is it not the right place and time to do that, but also there's these people that, like, I think Michael Malice calls these like the black-pilled people. It's just the sky is falling. It's doom and gloom. You know, we don't live in a free society, and you know what that means, Sherry? That means there's nothing about life you can enjoy until we live in a free society.
Yeah. How dare you take part in joy, statist? How dare you?
So first of all, you're never going to enjoy anything because, I mean, I'm trying to not sound like a black pill person right now myself, but we're probably a ways off from a free society.
What?
So I'm going to continue to enjoy the things I enjoy. I'm going to continue to enjoy Game of Thrones until season 6 or 5. And we're going to continue to watch football and go to games. And, well, you got your mask on, I guess. But that being neither here nor there. The point being is just don't be that person. Don't be, when that one lady who wrote that book saying libertarians were autistic, this is what she was talking about. Don't be that person. I mean, Sherry, you get me, right?
I totally get you. And it's like they can't wait to tell you how crappy you are and how much more virtuous they are than you because they don't partake of the evil bread and circuses.
The last thing I'll say before we go to break is that if, you know, say for instance, like I like the Eagles. Now, I'm not going to say a popular podcast host whose show I was on recently who doesn't like the Eagles, whose initials are TW, Tom W, T Woods. That way they won't know. But, you know, if you don't like the Eagles, that's fine. You don't have to like the Eagles. But because you don't like something, or maybe even better yet, because you have no idea about something,
right?
Like because I don't understand quantum physics, that's not an indictment on quantum physics. That's an indictment on the person who doesn't know the thing.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, just keep your mouth shut. If you don't keep my name out.
I'm glad we could have this talk.
Thank you. I needed it.
We'll be right back after this. Don't go away. Guys, welcome back to It's Too Late. I wanted to do another little rant because, I mean, this is my show, right?
Yeah,
I get to do rants.
Want.
You know the biggest difference between Jen Psaki, the new like White House press secretary lady, and Trump, and what was that one,
Kellyanne Conway?
Well, yeah. Like the biggest difference, I mean, don't get me wrong. The press was very antagonistic towards Trump. Duh. And in response, Trump was very antagonistic towards the press. And so there was just this tension in every single,
briefing,
press conference or whatever. Yeah. But of course, vice versa, the Biden regime has rolled in. Jen Psaki's there, and just by default, of course, the corporate press is very welcoming and forgiving and understanding of those press conferences, and vice versa. She's very kind of warm and just generally non-antagonistic back towards them. But of course, her job is to answer the press's questions, and they're not asking the Biden administration a lot of tough questions. But even if they even so much as accidentally ask a question that's not, what's his favorite color? then she has this very polite way of giving an answer that's a non-answer. Whereas Kellyanne would have said, well, we're not going to ask that, and frankly, you shouldn't be here. Her answer goes a little bit something like this.
I'll circle back if there's more I can share with you. But I'll circle back with you if there's more to convey. I'll have to just circle back with you. We can circle back with you. I'm happy to circle back with you. I can circle back. I will have to circle back on that one. That's an excellent question. Oh, such an important question. We will circle back with you, and we'll circle back with you. It's an interesting question, but we'll circle back. I'm happy to circle back, but I'll have to circle back with you on it. It's a good question, but we'll circle back with you on this today. We will certainly circle back with you more directly. I hate to disappoint you, but I will have to circle back.
I hate to disappoint you.
Yeah.
That's such an important question.
Right.
That's very interesting, but I'll have to circle back.
This would never happen to me.
Hey, Sherry.
Yes?
What time is it?
Meme of the week.
Circle back.
Look at this photograph.
Oh, my
See,
God.
it makes me laugh.
All right. Real talk. Do you or have you ever owned a Nickelback CD?
No, I have not.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
Yes, yes.
So, of course, we do these shows live. So we're live on the air right now, Wednesday night.
Right.
So people in the chat, fess up. Have you
Y'all know.
currently or have you ever owned a Nickelback product? Let us know in the chat.
I wish you had like a spotlight you could shine into the camera like you're interrogating them.
Well, and so for the other people that either haven't or are too scared to admit it, you find the people who are admitting it and you shun them. You shun them from civilized society.
Yeah.
Actually, don't do that because we only have like 7 viewers. If 3 of them shun the other 4 before listening to Nickelback, then it'll just be Clay and Celeste
going to a death match or something. Yeah.
But not Lyle. I bet Lyle listens to Nickelback. Speaking of that, let's answer some more now. I just wanted you.
I like
Oh,
that.
she quit. I wanted everybody to see you
I was
rocking back and
dancing.
forth. Rocking back and forth to the thing that sounds very, very much like Star Wars, but it's not Star Wars.
No.
Disney. It's
George
not.
Lucas.
So don't flag us on YouTube.
Usually the
or
rocking I'm
wherever.
doing is more like this. Back and forth.
All right. All right. Clay Davis writes, Dear Alan and Sherry, who's your favorite hip-hop/rap artist? In the event you haven't one, who can you tolerate? I don't even know.
Alan hasn't won.
Yeah, so Alan hasn't won,
Yeah.
and who I can tolerate is no one.
Yeah.
But I mean, to be fair, I can't really tolerate a lot of people who do anything.
That's true. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, do you have an answer to that one?
I do. I have.
Okay.
I like. I love Snoop Dogg. Like
Yeah, sure.
really a lot, and then like Lil Wayne is another one that I've been listening to a lot lately. And Ludacris. Oh, I love Ludacris too.
Just so folks at home, only a white lady would say Little Wayne as opposed to Lil Wayne.
Lil Wayne.
Yeah, sure you did, Sherry. Adam Sakosin writes, Dear Alan and Sherry, what is love? Well, I mean, he's got the picture of the SNL thing, but I don't have that prepared to put on the show.
Yeah.
Plus, I think that's the type of thing that would get us flagged, and
right.
yeah, then we'd have a little content dispute.
Love could be a bottle of whiskey.
I mean, Adam, I'll answer that question for you off air.
Sounds like an invitation.
Jeff Johnson writes, Dear Alan and Sherry, log cabin in the woods or high-rise penthouse? Log cabin in the woods or high-rise penthouse, Sherry?
I want to do my best Ava Gabor impersonation, but I'm gonna say cabin in the woods myself. I'm a cabin in the woods kind of girl.
Yeah. Believe it or not, I actually wouldn't. The problem with high-rise penthouses is that I just always feel like it would be loud. Like, have you ever seen like one of these really trendy like open floor apartments that are like that are in the downtown of Knoxville or whatever, and you're thinking, but wouldn't you hear the traffic and stuff like every rush hour? And
I can tell you from experience, because Mike and Friends' mother lived in a very high-rise apartment, very high up. And you can't hear the traffic, but the wind whips like crazy. It sounds like the spooky house wind. It gets crazy.
Yeah. So exactly. So I need everything to be just the right silence so I can just hear my tinnitus. While Dario writes, Dear Alan and Sherry, am I the only person who didn't buy Dogecoin? No, you're not, because I didn't either. But I actually saw a really interesting thing. You remember back when we all got like the $1,200 checks or whatever it was earlier in the year?
Right.
You did finally get yours, right?
I don't know. Probably.
Oh, I don't know. Guys, just the sheer level of just riches and decadence that Sherry Voluntary lives in. For her, $1,200, I don't know. I might have just wiped my ass with that check. I don't remember.
Yeah, the ex takes care of that stuff. He just dishes it out to me whenever I need.
So anyway, did you know that if you had taken your whole $1,200 back then and put it into Bitcoin, it would be like, it'd be something like $7,000 right now?
Yeah,
or some ridiculous amount of money. So I don't know, but just as a serious answer, I avoid all the random altcoins because I just no matter how hype you are for crypto, everything is a gamble, and I don't have the money to afford gambling.
Right.
So there you go. Suzanne Sherman writes, Dear Alan and Sherry, what type of therapy do you recommend for people who don't like pineapple on pizza, and should red flag laws apply to them if they don't change their evil ways?
You want my answer?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Shock therapy.
All right, so both of y'all are like hoes with no toes, because bitches be tripping tonight. Pineapple does not belong on pizza. And as you know, I'm kind of like the libertarian expert on what food is and isn't categorized as. So once you put the pineapple on the pizza, it's no longer pizza, it's literal garbage.
I love it.
So,
I love it.
So Suzanne, by the way, Suzanne will be here March 20th, so we're going to fight. We're not having pineapple
I hope she wears
pizza.
her boots. Her shit kick.
Like
She'll shit kick you.
Like she's going to leave the house without her boots on. Daniel Blanchett writes, Dear Alan and Sherry, why are y'all like that? Have you ever noticed that any given week we have like 3 or 4 like genuinely thoughtful questions, and the rest is just the trolls who follow us?
Pineapple
have you
on
noticed
pizza
that?
territory. Apparently.
Yeah, exactly right. So the answer, Daniel, is because God made me this way. Jonathan Carranza writes, Dear Alan and Sherry, are you going to be serving steak and lobster at this year's live show event in March? Jonathan, we're not going to be serving steak and lobster, but we are going to have, are you ready? Should I tell everybody, Sherry?
I mean, bring the crowds.
We're going to have a donut bar.
Ooh, donuts.
Yeah. So there you go. Now the third of the audience who doesn't like donuts is like, well, scratch that event off the list.
You could put it on top of a pie.
Bunch of bundles of sticks. Blake Osborne. Blake Osborne.
What? Did someone see a goat?
This guy ain't got time to do the show anymore, but he's got time to send us viewer mail. Have you noticed that?
I did notice that.
Blake Osborne writes, Dear Alan and Sherry, if you were to pick the Super Bowl halftime performer, who would it be? I tell you what, I'm going to make this one a little bit tougher. I'm going to say it's because the question's not who was the best so far. So this is the opposite. It's going to be if you could pick the performer, who would it be? But you can't pick someone who already was. Okay. So someone who's never done the Super Bowl halftime before, but you think they would be a great Super Bowl halftime, who would it be?
Oh. I have no idea. Like, I'd like to see like some old decrepit Bob Dylan or something come out and Jimmy Page. That'd be awesome. See Jimmy Page come out and do that would actually be pretty good.
You know what? I think the Eagles should do the Super Bowl halftime show. I mean, that's just a classic American band. That's true. I mean, like the highest selling greatest hits album. You know, there you go.
They're a great band. They're a great band.
They are. They are. Anyone who doesn't like the Eagles is literally a communist.
I agree.
And they probably like pineapple on their pizza to boot.
No. I like.
Celeste Ennis writes, Dear Alan and Sherry, ribeyes or filet mignon?
I don't know. Filet mignon, I guess. I don't know.
Not a big steak person?
No, I'm not actually. Now ribs.
I always thought you liked meat.
All day. Hey.
I mean, if I'm paying for it, then ribeye, right? but if Celeste is offering an all you can eat, then I'm going to say filet mignon.
Yeah. Go for it.
So Celeste better be here March 20th. Is all I got to say. And finally, Andrew Avery. Dear Alan and Sherry, were the weekend's backup dancers pampered? So if you were one of these gross autist sports ball people who didn't see the Super Bowl, then you missed the halftime show where they had these dancers and they had these like mask type things on, but they kind of looked like they were wearing underwear that was like, turned around on their face or whatever.
They wore literal face diapers? I didn't see it, so I didn't know. Yeah.
I mean, kind of, yeah. I mean, really more than kind of. I mean, yeah. So Andrew, that's not really even a pun. It's the honest to goodness truth they did. So there you go. I mean, you missed a streaker and you missed a bunch of grown-ass men wearing diapers on their face. That's what you missed if you were just a big autist and missed out.
I'm really sorry I missed it. Hashtag autism.
You are. We're going to get in trouble, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, we are already in trouble.
Since we're already way over time, let me do another quick story. So I've been kind of low-key trying to get banned on Facebook because I feel like at this point, it's almost like a personal offense to me. Like why are all of my viewers banned, but I'm still here? And I make this crap.
Right.
Isn't that weird?
It is strange. It's like the cult leader that won't
So the lieutenant governor of Louisiana, and it goes to show you how much I care. I don't even know the guy's name. The lieutenant governor of Louisiana made a post about how you'd have to be some kind of monster who just hates the poor if you oppose a federal $15 minimum wage, which is actually the topic of tonight's show, which we'll get to that in a second. But that was his post, and so it was a screenshot of his Twitter saying, you know, how could you oppose this? And his Facebook was just seriously. So my response to him was, it's a shame that calling someone a goddamn retard will get you banned on social media because you're a dead ringer, my friend.
And you didn't get
And you know what the crazy thing is? I'm still here.
That is crazy.
It's like I've somehow got like the mithril vest. I can't be banned. I keep on saying these things. It doesn't. But you know, like Daniel McAdams calls a Fox News reporter stupid, and they ban him for life.
Wait, how dare you,
Twitter.
sir?
Yeah.
How dare you?
On that note, we're going to be back to talk about the goddamn retarded $15 federal minimum wage right after this break. Don't go away. Your ad could be playing right now, reaching thousands of potential customers. Sadly, it's not, but it could be. Find out how to be an advertised sponsor for It's Too Late with Alan Mosley. Email us at info@alanmosley.tv. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Welcome back. Our first article for today, we're talking about minimum wage. There's a lot of talk out there that the Biden administration wants to push through a $15 federal minimum wage, which, of course, that means for folks at home, that's one size fits all. It's one size fits all. That means every state and municipality would have a $15 minimum wage at a minimum. You could have a higher minimum wage than that if you're particularly dumb, like a Seattle or what have you. So we're going to start off with this article right here. It comes to us from David Youngberg. Puerto Rico's effective minimum wage would be $68 per hour under Biden plan.
Wow.
While a federal $15 minimum wage will help some people, it will hurt many others. Really quick, you see that picture right there?
Mm-hmm.
I swear to God, if you're at home, go find this article, scroll down to the comments. That guy is in the comments and says, "Hey, that's me."
Ah!
He's a picture, he's a stock photo guy, and he's like, "Hey, that's me." So anyway, we're going to dig into this a little bit. So, by the way, it's like, well, wait a minute, I thought you said 15. So this is an interesting article because it talks about if you're going to have a federally mandated minimum wage of $15, then let's talk about what the effective minimum wage would be if, let's say, Washington, D.C.'s was 15. So Puerto Rico has had a long history of being harmed by Washington overreach. I feel like you could have just left Puerto Rico out and just said, human life has a long history of being harmed by Washington overreach. The island was once home to a thriving needlework industry until the federal minimum wage destroyed its competitive advantage. The same unintended consequences happened again in 1974 when increases in the minimum wage cut 32% of low-wage jobs. 1/3.
Wow.
They cut 1/3 of low-wage jobs overnight.
Oh, and then patted themselves on the back for a job done.
Look what we did, y'all. Because that's how they talk in Washington, D.C. Look what we did, y'all. Now, history threatens to repeat itself once more as Biden administration tries to more than double the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. You can take another quick break right there. It's not just that they're raising the federal minimum wage. It's that they're wanting to go from like, what is it, 7 1/4? Is that what it is right now? Yeah. 7 1/4 to 50. Like they're not going from 7 1/4 to 9.15,
right.
Which we wouldn't support that either, by the way. Mm-hmm. But they're not doing that. They want to go all the way up to 15 an hour. By forcing up the cost of employment, the minimum wage hurts the very people it tries to assist and creates the real risk of losing their job altogether. So we're actually going to pull up an interesting little chart here. So this is a chart of the 50 states, and Puerto Rico's on there as well, and it includes Washington, D.C. And what this chart is, it's effective minimum wage for the states if you're basing that on a $15 federal minimum wage for Washington, D.C. And that's what one size fits all does. So let's take a look at that chart. So DC, $15 an hour. Now there's some just, particular authoritarian hellscapes where that actually wouldn't even be good enough. You can actually look over there at, Maryland. So Maryland's would actually only be $14.61 because Maryland is such a ridiculous state that it's actually worse than the District of Columbia. But think of some of the other heavy hitters. Think of in New York where cost of living is really high and all that. 1944. 1944 would be the effective minimum wage in New York. Some people might be thinking, well, what about California? California, 1788 in California. So still, even in states like that where you kind of assume because of progressive policies, the numbers would be at least more in line with DC's. They're still a little bit higher.
Yeah.
But let's take a look at our neck of the woods, Sherry.
Tennessee,
Oh boy. $24.66 is the effective federal minimum wage if you're basing that on $15 in DC.
Wow.
Look at Alabama over there, $24.85. It actually gets worse. You could almost guess, by the way, only counting the 50 states, like who's the worst. I think everyone's guessed it must be Mississippi. You'd be right. Mississippi, $31.18 would be your effective minimum wage in that state based on the $15 DC. And then, of course, you have Puerto Rico in the bold up there in the top right, $68 effective minimum wage.
Wow.
That's just insane. Like I just don't know how you can possibly justify that. And the point being is, again, is that so it's not just that we're raising the minimum wage in that it's a federally mandated minimum wage. It's not that you're going from 7.25 to 10. You're going from 7.25 all the way up to 15.
Right.
And it's not just that what's the politically correct way we can put this? The feds are not encouraging states to raise their minimum wages effective to their cost of living, their population. Mm-hmm. They're not doing that. They want to make it a federally mandated minimum wage, which another way of putting that is one size fits all. Mm-hmm. When has one size fits all ever worked for anyone anywhere?
Yeah.
I mean, when you hear one size fits all, is that not one of the catchphrases that you constantly hear bureaucrats and politicians use when they're trying to denigrate something, not promote something?
Right. Yeah. It doesn't help the individuals. It's one size fits all. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they actually have a little bit later here in the article. There is no one best way. In the 1990 book, The Future and Its Enemies, Virginia Postrel described the preferred plan of technocrats as the one best way. Technocrats tell themselves that progress can be managed and they can render the world safe and stable. The one best way, i.e., by the way, the best way is their way.
Right, always.
Spoiler alert, their way. Means they determine how the world changes. They choose the winners. They establish the values. Now, something that you and I were talking about before we take our next break, that specifically if you're looking at Puerto Rico, because they kind of highlight that in the article, because their effective minimum wage would skyrocket up to $68, and this wouldn't be the first time it happened, is that it's going to create this environment where, like, that half the country, more than, like 2/3 of the country is not just going to starve and die tomorrow. They're going to figure out ways to circumvent that law, right? Like, that's what people tend to do when they don't really respect an edict that comes down from Washington, or they just flat out can't obey it. Mm-hmm. Then they won't. Either because they disrespect it, so they won't, or they can't, so they won't. And so what you're going to end up happening is you're going to have a lot more people be contractors. You're going to have a lot more self-employed types who are not getting benefits, who are trying to circumvent that law. But here's the thing that ultimately always happens. The feds know that. Like, they're not stupid. Like, I mean, anyone who's seen the cop down on the corner with his little radar gun, like, they know people speed. Right. Because they know that there's a lot of people that don't pay any attention to the speed limit sign. In fact, I mean, I would dare say most. I mean, if you're gonna be literal and say that going 71 in a 70 is technically speeding, which it technically is, by the way, then I would say the overwhelming majority don't truly respect speed limit laws, not in the most literal sense. Mm-hmm. Well, they're not stupid. when I say there, I mean the powers that be. The authorities are not stupid. They know that that's how people feel about it. Now, for the most part, people go on living their lives and the authorities don't get in the way because frankly, they just don't have the manpower, right? Like they don't, there's not enough state troopers to pull over every single car in the interstate going above 70 in a 70. They don't have them.
They would love to have them, but they don't.
But here's what happens though. They won't likely use it against you, but they could weaponize it against you. And I see this exact same scenario happening in a situation of a $15 minimum wage in areas where business owners just simply can't afford to employ people at that rate. If the business needs more labor, or it will not survive, but they cannot afford those rates, they will figure out ways to get that labor. Hint, hint, wink, wink. And the authorities, not being idiots, will know that this little hoodoo is going on. They'll let it slide unless you somehow become sideways with the law.
Yeah.
You say the wrong thing about the wrong politician. You scuff the mayor's boots, and all of a sudden, knock, 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 you're getting someone rapping on the door saying, "Hey, we want to check your records. We want to see who's employed here. We want to make sure that you're following all the mandated federal minimum wages." And you see the story repeated, and I'm so glad, by the way, we came up with speed limit laws, because that's such a perfect example of a law that everyone knows what that law is. Everyone knows what the speed limit in their neighborhood is. No one obeys it.
Yeah.
No one obeys it. But you have a reasonable expectation that if you go 16 in your 15 mile per hour drive, you're not going to like literally be drug out of your car and beaten. You have a reasonable expectation you'll be okay. But in the back of your mind, don't you know that all it takes is the one time?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you, I mean, I don't want to sound like a doom and gloomer, but does it ever cross the back of your mind when you think that, like, well, this could be the one day where I'm going half a mile over and there could just be one really angry guy who feels like writing a maximum ticket, and this is going to be the day?
Yeah, this is the day I go all killdozer on.
I like how my reference was, this could be the day that they do something evil. In your mind, you were thinking, no, this is the day that Sherry... What's that?
My minivan will be my killdozer, though.
What's that? Oh God, what's that movie where the guy, like the business guy, goes insane and
falling down?
Yeah.
Yes.
We should watch that.
Yeah, oh, we should do that, definitely. Maybe that's what we should do after the live event show.
We're gonna have a private screening of Falling Down after episode 150 on March 20th. Actually, we're not. I feel like if you say that and then now, like, you know...
Like, I thought we were watching Falling Down.
Well, not only will the Altists be mad, but then Paramount Pictures will show up or something, and we'll be in trouble. So, believe it or not, we're not done. We're gonna talk a little bit more. I'm trying to see the monitor, by the way. Like, you're the worst producer, Sherry, because I am leaning all the way over trying to see
Look
how
at the
long
camera.
this damn show's been. Yeah. Okay. We got time. We're going to come back for another segment to talk about how goddamn retarded a federal $15 minimum wage is right after this break.
If you're enjoying tonight's show, consider supporting the program by becoming a member of our Patreon. That's over at patreon.com/Alan Mosley.
Guys, welcome back to the show. So we're going to move on to the effect of the $15 minimum wage on small businesses. Check this out. $15 minimum wage would spell a death knell for many small restaurants, experts warn. A top financial expert just warned Biden's $15 minimum wage proposal would be catastrophic for restaurants and small businesses. So this one's actually written by Brad Palumbo from FEE, Foundation for Economic Education. So he's actually got it broken down into a few interesting categories. So so first of all, and we didn't mention this in the last segment, the reason why this is such a hot topic right now is, the Democrats won themselves the White House and they won themselves them Senate runoffs down in Georgia. And there was no shortage. This is not some random kooky conspiracy theory. There were no shortage of actual mailers and advertisements that were paid for by the DNC and super PACs that said, "Vote for us. You're getting $2,000." Sherry, have you gotten your $2,000 yet?
Not that I'm aware.
I don't even know why. I forgot. My mistake. Sherry, who just, you know what? You wouldn't make a good Shah of Iran. They would drag you out of your palace for your decadence.
Yes.
How dare you?
I mean, look at this studio.
It is a nice studio. Although apparently there's a portal to another dimension just 6 inches behind. So you gotta watch out for that.
Well, don't slip.
So there's a lot of people that are saying, well, they're going to try to push this into the COVID-19 spending package. They're going to try to shoehorn that into a big omnibus bill to say, well, look guys, we're trying to give you that relief check that we promised you, but it's them lousy Republicans that keep getting in the way because they just won't vote for it. Well, first of all, the Republicans love socialism, so it has to be a deeper issue than that. It's not just that. It's that they're trying to shove things like a $15 federal minimum wage into the same legislation.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is no new trick on Capitol Hill. So he's specifically talking about the restaurant sector in this article, and he actually leads off with, well, let's look at the context. So we're coming off of 2020, right? The dreaded 2020. 2020 was already an awful, awful year for small business.
Yeah.
What was it? What was it that Yelp or somebody had said? Something like 43% of restaurants were going to close permanently after 2020. That's almost half.
Yeah. And I think they did in Denver alone. That many closed.
Yeah, it says right here, the minimum wage hike causes unemployment even in the best of times. But small businesses and restaurants already had a particularly disastrous 2020. More than 100,000 small businesses permanently shuttered last year amid pandemic lockdowns and riots. While polling shows that 60% of small business owners worry they won't make it to June of 2021. And that's before labor costs going up due to a $15 minimum wage. Those are some big numbers. The simple fact, minimum wage hikes would crush mom and pops. $15 federal minimum wage in its companion legislation introduced by House Democrats might please labor unions and the Democratic base, but there's really no question that it would screw over small business at the worst possible time. Big business may be fine with a dramatic increase of the federal minimum wage, as they've been thriving during the pandemic. So that's another part of this too, is that, your mom and pop corner market was closed for 6 months. I'll be damned if Walmart wasn't open every single day.
Yes.
Every single day, as the National Federation of Independent Business explained. But small businesses know these policies will make it even harder for them to compete against their larger competitors. Reality check. Government intervention often benefits well-connected, established interests. No!
What?
I know, right? The Targets and Walmarts of the world might well be able to weather a huge spike in labor costs, but countless thousands of small businesses would not survive it. Of course, large businesses have armies of lobbyists and spend millions schmoozing with lawmakers in Washington, D.C. They no doubt would have a hand in crafting any minimum wage proposal. So that's a beautiful thing too, and I know we've talked about this on the show before. It's that it's become pretty popular for people to say, oh, look how stupid this omnibus bill is. They print it out and it's like this high on the desk and it's like 6,000 pages, and people start doing the math of, well, they got the bill at lunchtime, so they would have to be able to read whatever it is,
7,000 words a minute.
Yeah, they'd have to read thousands of words a minute to be able to read the bill before it was time to vote on it. So I feel like that concept is not alien anymore. Like the general public consciousness understands that it's kind of the sleazeball way that DC works.
Right.
But it goes beyond that. The question you should be asking yourselves is not just how ridiculous that is, but if they just propose this legislation, how did they write it so fast? And it's because, for one, it's not like it was a single person with a quill and ink and writing the legislation. It was a team of lobbyists who were paid by the special interests who helped to write it. And way more often than not, enormous chunks of that legislation, guys, that stuff was written months, years ago.
Yes.
They were just waiting on a good opportunity to push it through.
Yep.
Yeah, I've heard it said by other people that, and I've said this as well, that, if I wrote legislation that was only a couple of paragraphs and it said everyone owes Alan Mosley $1 million, for one, that wouldn't be very popular legislation. And it's just a non-starter from the word go. But if everybody was waiting on the COVID-19 relief bill and we put my 2 paragraphs into that bill, then people will feel politically compelled to vote for it when they wouldn't have voted for it on its own. It wouldn't have survived on its own merits, but as a part of this COVID relief bill that, oh, by the way, is enormously popular with the voting public, yes, it'll get passed.
Yeah.
So scrolling down here to the bottom, in economically free societies, everyone benefits when honest and hardworking men and women who have confidence that they can retain the fruits of their labor have incentives to invest and work hard. Heritage Foundation economist James M. Roberts explains. That confidence is destroyed when the economic system is controlled by a government that directs the largesse and power of the state to those with connections. This sort of corruption is the definition of cronyism. And that really is driving the point home, too, that as the lieutenant governor from Louisiana was trying to put it, you just must be a monster if you oppose this legislation because we're trying to help poor people make more money. Right. By the way, his original post that he had on Twitter, it was talking about how, well, if the minimum wage is $7.25, then you should have to spend 6 months living on $7.25 to see if you can survive.
Wonder if he'd do it.
Well, so first of all, no.
Right.
And second of all, maybe, just throwing this out here, maybe you're not intended to be able to live a comfortable life just making $7.25 an hour. Maybe, just maybe, the people who are only worth $7.25 an hour because they can only produce $7.25 an hour worth of goods and services are making the minimum wage because they're just not worth more than that. Right. But who makes that? That's the real question. Who are you trying to help? Who makes $7.25? Teenagers make $7.25.
Yes.
So maybe some post-retirees who are over there working at Hardee's, because you've all seen them. Come on. They're making $7.25. The lowest skilled, most disenfranchised people are making that. And you might be telling yourself, well, perfect. I've waved my magic wand, and those poor young people with no skills, those people who fell through the cracks of the education system, we're going to make them make more than double. No, you're not. Because, Sherry, let me ask you, I didn't prepare you for this quiz.
Okay.
The federal minimum wage is $7.25, but Sherry, what's the real minimum wage?
$0.
Oh, no. I knew Sherry would know it. Guys, the real minimum wage is $0. Because you can always just not have a job.
Yeah. That sounds like what they're trying to do.
That's the... I hate to bring up Nick Sarwark again, but... I don't know where this... where I'm going with this is that we had a running joke about, look, I can't prove that Sarwark is a Fed. I'm just saying that if he were a Fed, he would be acting exactly the way he's acting right now.
Yeah.
He's a plant. He's a plant. So anyway, if I was trying to put all those young people and uneducated and unskilled laborers out of work,
right.
That's what I would do right there.
You're not trying to give money to the poor. You're trying to make people with money be poor.
So we're going to move on really quick. A lot of people on the left, a lot of Democrats, a lot of left-leaning economists and the like, they'll say, that's a boogeyman. That's kind of a right-wing conservative boogeyman that they genuinely just want to hurt poor people.
Right.
Because there's all this evidence that shows that when we raise the minimum wage, that's not the actual outcome. The actual outcome is not that a bunch of businesses close down and a bunch of people get laid off. Oh, is it? Local Kroger stores close as California, quote, hero pay ordinance backfires.
What?
This result certainly wasn't what local lawmakers intended, but it was actually quite predictable. This is also coming from Brad Palumbo from Fee. So Long Beach, California mandated a hero pay. I believe the hero pay was $4 an hour. Yeah, so they mandated that any business that has 300 or more employees nationwide who has a location in Long Beach has to pay the what's the word I'm looking, the essential workers.
Yes.
If you are labeled an essential worker, they owe you $4 extra per hour as sort of a hazard pay, I guess. Do you think all those people working at those small markets in Long Beach are getting $4 more an hour, or they're getting 100% less per hour today, Sherry?
I'd go with option 2.
Ralph's and Food for Less, both owned by the parent company Kroger, announced Monday that they will be closing 25% of their stores.
Ooh.
After the city council passed an ordinance requiring companies with over 300 nationwide employees to pay an extra $4 per hour. By the way, people who are, kind of questioning, like, well, I don't know, that sounds fake newsy. Well, they're small local type corner markets, but their parent company is Kroger. So these are small markets that are completely run and serviced by local inhabitants. And they're not exactly the most well-to-do, prosperous grocery stores there are to begin with. And especially during times as hard as during the lockdowns. But they're owned by Kroger's. So since they're owned by Kroger's, this mandate applies to them, which means, of course, they're going to close.
Right.
A company spokesperson directly cited the city council's ordinance mandating higher wages as the reason they're closing down. Quote, "The irreparable harm that will come to employees and local citizens as a direct result of the city of Long Beach's attempt to pick winners and losers is deeply unfortunate. We are truly saddened that our associates and customers will ultimately be the real victims of the city council's actions." It's a pretty good statement by Kroger's right there. I mean, they didn't mince words. They didn't do the politically correct.
Right.
Well, I don't know what happened. No, they said the city council of Long Beach put you all out of work.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Put them out of
The
work.
ordinance. Yep. So here's Robert Garcia, by the way, who is Long Beach mayor. He says, "Tomorrow, on the day we inaugurate our new president, I'll sign into law a $4 an hour hero pay increase to our hardworking grocery and supermarket workers. They have been on the front lines of this pandemic and deserve this support."
Wow.
He also follows up with, "When large corporations make record profits and double their earnings, they need to share that success with those providing the labor, period." He's a commie.
Yeah.
He's a communist.
Yes.
That's...
Correct.
I'll tell you what, because I know we're running short on time. The moral of the story, and what's so sad about this, is there will be some folks who can't go to that grocery store anymore because it's closed. There will be some folks who had a job there that are now out of a job that'll say, "I wish they hadn't done that." They being the city council. I wish they hadn't done, if they would have just left well enough alone. Maybe I would have liked to have made $4 more an hour, but at least I had a job.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's be honest with ourselves here. Like, let's say, for instance, you were making minimum wage at one of those jobs. If you're accepting a job at Ralph's making minimum wage, it might be because that was the best job you could get.
Right.
Like, that's something that people never consider, and the bleeding heart types never consider that. Look. The dude at the drive-thru at McDonald's who's making $7.25 an hour, he's not there because he had a choice between that and CEO of Whole Foods and decided, I love me some French fries. That was because that was the best job he was offered.
Yeah.
I mean, most likely, right? Like, I mean,
yes.
I get if you could make 50 cents less an hour, but you get to go at a putt-putt course. I mean, like, there's young people that do dumb things all the time.
Right.
But by and large, people take the job that pays the most money, especially at the bottom of the economic scale, right? Mm-hmm. If you can only make $8 an hour and somebody else will pay you $9 an hour, that's a big enough percentage jump for you that you're like, heck yeah, man, I'll go make $9. So they're doing the best they can, and instead of them making more, you're just eliminating options altogether. You're eliminating options altogether, which brings me to the last thing for today. How is the road to hell paved, Sherry?
With good intentions.
why a $15 federal minimum wage would be a terrible policy. No amount of good intentions can invalidate basic economics. This is from Jack Elbaum. By the way, I actually shared this article, and wouldn't you know, a guy named Jack Elbaum liked it on Facebook. so Jack, if you're out there, thanks. This is getting back to the real sad reality. The 2/3 of Americans who support a minimum wage hike to $15 per hour now have an ally in the White House. That's the worst part, is that you're putting people out of work so that their minimum wage goes down to zero. But 2/3 of people in the country support the move because they don't know basic economics.
Yes.
Biden is already acting on the support and trying to include a $15 an hour minimum wage to his COVID-19 relief plan. So we've already talked about the economics of minimum wage. Let's talk a little bit. We'll finish here today. Let's talk a little bit about property rights and self-ownership. We'll bring this full circle back around to kind of our neck of the political woods.
Principles.
Let's talk about no, because what do I always say? They ain't got any.
Yeah.
They don't have any principles.
Yeah.
Self-ownership, individualism, and property rights, which are, by the way, for people at the LP, if they're listening, those are kind of important.
Those are principles.
Yeah, those are that's like libertarianism 101. Yeah. So whether or not there's a pandemic, the thing about principles is they should really be guiding your decision making, and you don't have to sit here and go with your little teapot and you're being held by your toes. They help to guide your decision making. If you believe in private property rights and you take that to its logical conclusion, then you understand that if Joe Bob owns a lawn cutting business and Jim agrees to work for Joe Bob and they agree to $10 an hour, first of all, that's none of your goddamn business.
Yes.
That's Jim Bob and Joe's business. That's it. Nobody else's. Or was it Joe Bob and Jim? I get these damn rednecks.
they all look the same.
Oh, okay. So anyway, first of all, that's not the state's business. That is an agreement between those two people. And again, don't cry too many crocodile tears for Jim, because Jim might be taking the best job he can get. If he, on his own recognizance, agrees to that arrangement, that might be because that's the best he can do. You don't know, right? But you don't know.
No.
You don't know,
Stop.
State. You don't know. So the point being is, but if it's Joe Bob's business, it belongs to him. He owns the fruits of his labor. That business belongs to him. And he doesn't have to employ anyone.
Yes.
Which, by the way, Libertarianism 101 also includes being against anti-discrimination laws. But that's another episode for another day. If it's his business, he gets to say who works there and for how much. And if he says, I'm not going to employ you for more than $5 an hour, and you say, you go shove it, I'm not working for that little. And if he then can't get any employees because no one agrees to work for that little, then the market is telling him, you're going to have to figure out a way to cut your costs, yes, or perform more labor yourself, or you're going to have to raise your salaries because no one's going to buy.
Right.
Vice versa, if the opposite is true and someone agrees to take a job at that price, again, who takes those jobs? The lowest skilled or youngest people or lowest educated people are the people most likely to take those jobs, either because they're the best jobs they can get, or they can parlay that experience into a raise, into a better job. But when you force Jim Bob to not offer that salary, that position is not available, then they never get their foot in the door. They can't afford anything because their minimum wage is zero. They don't learn any skills. You know, we're not really blazing a trail here. I mean, This is in our neck of the woods. This is basic economic
common sense.
It's common economic sense, but it's also principled sense as well.
Yes.
That I don't have a right to tell someone else how to run their business. I don't have a right to tell them who they do and don't have to serve. I don't have a right to tell them how much they pay their employees. I don't have a right to tell them how much they offer for their services either. I can't turn around and say, well, you're charging too much for that weed eating. You're charging $20 a lawn. I think you should only get to charge $10 a lawn. It's not my business. Unfortunately, as we read in the article there, over 2/3 of people support that policy. And it really, and it just, in my mind, it just backs up what I say on the show all the time. Not only do those people, we know that most people don't know anything about economics. Of course, those people don't know anything about economics. But they also don't have any principle. Because if they were principled people, they would know that whether I thought he could afford to pay $15 an hour or whether or not I thought his employees deserved $15 an hour, it's not my place to tell him.
Exactly. Well said.
I know there's a reason why I have you around, Sherry.
Yeah.
We good?
We're good.
All right. Guys, we will be back to wrap up right after this. Enjoy. Like our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/AlanMosleyTV. You can follow me on Twitter. It's twitter.com/AlanMosleyTV. Subscribe to our YouTube page. It's youtube.com/AlanMosleyTV. Guys, also, by the way, we're now on Odyssey. So if you're someone that's not a big fan of YouTube, you can find us on Odyssey. That's odyssey.com/@AlanMosleyTV. Just type Alan Mosley TV into every website you go to and just see what happens.
Sweet.
Sweet. Go to euthanasia.com. No. Don't do that, guys. Thank you so much, and we will see you next week.